Hi there, this is Tony, and we're back on the bench. And this evening, we're going to be doing a service here on another spinning reel. So this is a Mitchell Model 310 ultralight spinning reel. And it's a nice little reel. It's perfect for pan fishing and trout fishing and lakes and small ponds, streams, things of that sort. So we're going to get into doing the take apart and do some cleaning and some lube and the reassembly. So we're going to start here with taking this handle off here. And it's a pretty basic design of a reel. It is a ball bearing reel, but it's not too difficult to take apart. You just want to take your time. If you have this reel, you can download the schematic, which I recommend you do, or you can take pictures along the way, things of that sort. You can even do a video. Take our spool off here. Take the cap off first. So this is a pretty basic drag design, pretty classic Mitchell design actually. So you've got this spring here, drag spring, and usually you can kind of pry it up with the help of a screwdriver. It comes out like that, but you can see it's got these bent arms here, and that's part of the spring tensioner for when you turn the cap down. It tightens up your drag, and then you've got one drag washer here, basically. Real basic. Okay. And that's it. Real simple drag system. And so it makes it real easy to work on. So that's good. And then we'll take... Just note that there's a Teflon washer right here, okay? And, you want to clean up, anything that, might be impeding the operation here. If you got old oil or grease or whatever, these pieces are actually quite clean, so there's not really a lot to do there. On the inside here, I am going to take a Q-tip in here. I can see there's a little bit of sand and some dirt, things of that sort. Nothing too bad, though. Okay, so... Also get right here as well, inside that handle housing right there. Again, another typical Mitchell design here with the one single screw for the side plate. So we'll take that off and we'll have a look inside. We'll see what's going on there. But Mitchell's a company, they've been around a long time. They've been making quality reels since the 50s, really, going back to their 300s and the 302s and the 306s, all those kinds of reels. So this is where I like to keep my parts trays nearby. So again, this is another typical Mitchell design here where we've got these two pins in the block here. This is actually a very similar design that you would find in a Mitchell 306 intermediate sized reel. So you got those two pins there, and then you should be able to pull your axle shaft, your main shaft out. And then we got this block, it's a plastic block, okay? And so far all these parts are looking really clean, but we're going to clean them up even better once we get them all out here. We're going to hose them down with some penetrating lubricant here in a moment. Okay, now we've got this nut that we got to take off, and I believe that is a 12 mil nut. Yes, it is. So you can do this with a nut driver or a socket, whatever works. It is kind of deep, and so it's kind of hard to get an open-end wrench in there. Okay. I'm just going to kind of take all these pieces and parts out here slowly. Now, this is very important. When you're going to take this rotor off, you're not going to get it out until you undo the little tiny little set screw right here, and it's really hard to see on camera right now, but it's right there. You have to get that set screw out in order to take this rotor out, otherwise it's never going to come out, okay? So don't try to, yank, you take the nut off and then you try to yank it out. It seems like it's stuck. Well, that's because it is stuck. So you need to back off that set screw. You don't need to take it all the way out completely, but you need to back it off, okay? And then there is your rotor, okay? Now we're going to have a look here real quickly since we're here. So this is your ball bearings right here, okay? And this is a kind of a unique design that Mitchell made, where, you know, those bearings are in there, but they're trapped in there. They can't really get out per se, all right? Which is nice in this situation, you know, so you don't have to worry about them going all over the place. But you do want to make note that, you know, this is a part of the reel that you need to, you know, clean up and service here, basically. All right, so we're gonna clean up in here real good, the best that we can. And you know, I'm also noticing, you know, there's a little bit of a jiggle here with this bail spring, and these screws just might need a little tightening, perhaps. We'll see here. We'll see if that kind of helps that a little bit. That probably didn't need to happen on those, but maybe more so on this one, which this is actually a special set screw that goes into that bail wire. So if you find yourself with a little bit of looseness there, you know, you can kind of look and see, you know, if it's, you know, got something to do with, you know, that screw there in particular, or if it's, you know, something else, you know, that just kind of seems loose, okay? Okay, so right now, before we get into the rest of this here, we're just going to have a little look here real quick. I like to take a toothbrush to this gear here, and, you know, just kind of clean up any debris or dirt, grease, old grease that's on there. And then I'm just going to take some penetrating fluid. In this case, it's this Multi-Max Blaster fluid that I've been using, and it works pretty good. And this is just a great way to lube up those bearings real good, okay, and also to clean off these gear teeth the best that you can. And, you know, cleaning components on reels is important, you know, for any service. But I do find with ultralight reels in particular, the details really, really matter, okay, because these parts are so small and tiny, okay, and so you don't want to miss anything. You know, you want there to be a really good, smooth operation going on there, okay? So while we're here, I'm just going to kind of do my lube points here as I go. So I want to do a little bead of oil right here, as well as here for our bail springs, so that our bail is moving freely back and forth like so. Okay, I'm also going to take this here Q-tip here, and I'm just going to kind of clean up the inside of this housing here a little bit. Try to get any residual sand out of there the best that I can. Okay, got a good snap on that bail, so the bail springs are working pretty good, it looks like, so that's good. And then I'm just going to do a little flood here of oil for these ball bearings right here. Okay, and that's it. All right, and then while we're here, I'm going to take a little bit of grease and use some Penn Precision Blue grease here, and I'm just going to do a little dab on that pinion gear. Okay, just the tiniest little bit there. Okay, and this is all pretty much done and ready to go, so we'll just set that off to the side for right now. Now we've got our main gear. There's not a whole lot more going on in here really that really needs to be serviced. There's a dog underneath and a dog spring, and I'm just going to pull this out so that you can see what these pieces and parts look like, basically. And you want to be careful when you do this because they are going to fall apart on you, okay? So we've got our main gear. There is a metal washer ring, and it's kind of fused on there, so to speak, so it doesn't really come off, okay? So that's just one little thing to note. But like I mentioned before, we want to clean up these pieces and parts the best that we can. So take your penetrating fluid once again, You can use WD-40 or liquid wrench or, whatever it is that you got, but, using some penetrating lube really does help clean up these pieces and parts. I know, a lot of people that like to use degreasers and things like that. Those are okay too. 409 or, things of that sort, they're helpful. But I do find that the penetrating lubes are really helpful for, just loosening up all the thick gunk that, gets trapped up in these teeth and all these parts and components, really. So, okay. So, it looks pretty good there. I'm just going to spray just a little bit of this lube down in this hole here. Just let that kind of work its way in there a little bit, and as you can see, I mean, there is some dirt there. There's some residual dirt, that you really want to work out of there the best that you can. Okay. So we're just going to take a paper towel to this piece here, clean it up the best that we can. Nice clean main gear. Okay, and now to finish off on the inside here, so we've got a couple of pieces here. So we've got there's a dog spring right here, very, very tiny little dog spring, and it wraps around that little knob right there. Okay, it's a little difficult to see, all right, but it should be there, okay, and in this case here, it went flying off, back into the corner, when I took this off. And that's going to happen when you take these pieces and parts out, okay? So I'm just going to pull these out so that you can kind of see how small these are and what they look like, okay? But you've got, your dog spring and your dog right here, okay? And they do have to go back exactly the way that they're meant to go. And I'm going to show you that here in just a moment once we're done finishing cleaning out the inside here. Okay, but this is a very, very, very clean reel, so it's nice. It makes it very easy to work on and easy to service. I'll clean out the inside here. There's definitely some residual stuff in there that we're going to clean out for sure. Okay. So these pieces here, you basically need to get this spring resting like so around this knob here. Okay, I'm going to try to zoom in on this so you can see, but that spring needs to be there. And then our dog, it needs to basically press back up against that spring. And this is a little tricky to do. You got to press it back up against the spring and push up with it like that, basically. Okay. And so then that way, this pushes back and it has tension coming back down. Okay. And that's basically all you need to do. All right. I'm take another Q-tip here and just clean up all these little areas here real quick. Okay, and then what I find helps is to open up your anti-reverse, so that pulls back your dog spring and dog click right there. Okay, so now we're ready to basically put all the other pieces and parts back together. I am going to do just a little bead of oil right here, okay, and maybe just right here on that lever, just a tiny little bead of oil. That's all you need to do. And there it goes, snapping away on me again. That's the one thing you got to be careful of with this, is that it will come apart quite easily, I find. So once again, we're gonna do that trick where we got to press back on the spring once again, like so. Okay, like that. Okay, so now we're going to take some blue grease here to our main gear shaft here, just a little bit of blue grease on that. Okay, and take some blue grease to these teeth, like so. And when it comes to greases and oils, as I say in a lot of my videos, just make sure that they're made for fishing reels. Don't use Vaseline, and there's a lot of other petroleum products out there that are perfect for certain things, but not necessarily for fishing reels. Fishing reel grease and oils have specific elements to them that help prolong the life of your reel. So just going to do a little dab of blue grease there. Okay, and we're going to slide this back into position like so, like that. Okay. Then we should be ready to put all of our other pieces and parts back together. While we're doing this, though, we're going to hose this down, these pieces and parts here, with a little bit of this penetrating lube here. And we're going to take some 4-0 steel wool to that main shaft before we put it back. Okay, but we're done here with our pinion gear and our main bearing. Okay, so we're going to slide this back into position like so. All right, now don't forget your set screw, and that has to be just right. And I find that you kind of have to pull up on the rotor just a hair, just the tiniest little hair, for that to sink in just right. Okay, into that slot, that groove. Okay, now you don't want to over tighten it, but you want it to be kind of snug, because otherwise it'll get loose in there, as you're using the reel. The rotor won't fly off per se, because the nut, will keep it on there, but it'll get very unstable probably. So, you just don't want to do that. Okay, so now we'll put our nut back on, our 12 mil nut. Like so. Don't over tighten, just snug it up. Okay, like so. That looks good. Okay, so now we're ready to put these pieces and parts back on here. So I'm going to take some 4-0 steel wool to this main shaft here. I want to get these pieces cleaned up the best that I can, like so, before I go putting all this stuff back. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of blue grease on this main shaft. Don't need to get carried away, but just enough, like so. We're gonna get ready to slide that back down into place, but before we do that, we're just gonna double check the bottom of this block here, make sure that this is cleaned out real good, best that it can be. I am seeing a little bit of old hardened gunk on here, and it's probably just the original grease. You can see it's kind of flaking off there. You want to get that out of there. You don't want that to be there, because that's definitely going to impede your operation, and it's going to get munged up and stuck on that main shaft, and you don't want that. So okay, so the block looks good. We've got that greased up and ready to go. So there's 2 holes once again, and you just basically need to line up those holes with the shaft and the block, and then you're ready to put your pins back in. Very simple design, classic Mitchell design, and it's pretty hardy, and obviously it's pretty basic to work on for the most part, I'd say. Okay, so we'll put our plate back on like so. Do a little bead of oil on this screw here. This will definitely make a nice little ultralight reel for somebody who wants to do some pan fishing or some small trout fishing or perch fishing perhaps. Okay, so now we'll save the handle for last in this case here, but we've got these pieces and parts here. Don't forget your Teflon washer. Snap that back in place like so. Get our spool back on there. Got our drag washer. Our spring tensioner. Got our top cap there. That looks good there. Okay. The only other thing I can tell on here, there's definitely some discoloration on this handle here. There's not a lot that we can do about it, but we'll just kind of hose this down with a little bit of penetrating fluid here. These parts here, and we'll try to clean them up the best we can with some 4-0 steel wool. It's kind of like this oxidized kind of sheet metal look basically. And that's pretty typical with these old Mitchells. You'll see that happen. But you can smooth it out and make it look a little better with some of these basic household materials, as I call them. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to clean those off the best that we can. We're going to do a little bead of oil right here on these threads here, just a little tiny bead. Don't need to get excessive. We're also going to do a little bead of oil right here, just in case you've got that little handle whine going on, you know, when you're spinning. That whine that you get with dry plastic when it rubs up against metal, basically. So we'll put our handle back together here. Do a little bead of oil on these threads right here. Put our cap back on. Okay. Just going to clean this off a little bit and get some of this extra residual oil and grease off of here. Okay. And we're going to try this out here and see how it works. It sounds good. The anti-reverse is working perfectly, as it should. The bail, it's got a good snap to it. And turn our drag and make sure our drag is tightening up real good. That's good. Loosen it up. You never want to leave that drag tight when you're not using the reel anyway. So there you have it. That is the Mitchell 310 ultralight spinning reel, all serviced up and ready to go. So thanks again for watching. This is Tony with Back on the Bench. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. I'll see you next time.